The day I was planning to propose to my girlfriend of 3 years. She tricked me into thinking she was on a business trip but secretly flew from New Zealand to Switzerland, covering 1,193 kilometers, to pick up her sweetheart. That day, even though she hated peeling shells, she spent the whole night peeling shrimp for him. When my name came up, all she said was, "Him? He's beneath me, just something to mess around with." She let her friends mock me, saying I was lucky to be with a rich girl like her. What they didn't know was I'm the only heir of an established family in City A. I left home to avoid an arranged marriage after fighting with my dad. And yet, to me, her being a rich kid was nothing significant. Just a tiny speck. Eventually, she couldn't wait for me to come back and desperately begged me to return. But my current woman wrapped herself around me and kept kissing me. "Babe, your annoying ex-wife is back bothering us. Will you tell her I'm the one you truly love?" I was blushing and shyly responded, "Cut it out." On the 3rd anniversary with Becky, my dad set up an arranged marriage, pushing me to go home and tie the knot. In a rush, I turned my apartment into a proposal scene, gathering courage to propose to Becky. But that night, at a friend's party, I spotted her, supposedly away on a business trip. She looked gentle in a way I'd never seen, patiently peeling shrimp for a guy next to her. Her friends, oblivious of me at the door, teased her endlessly. "Becky, tricking Tim and running to your sweetheart is quite the thrill." "Huh? It's just on the way," she said. The others chimed in, "On the way, huh? New Zealand to Switzerland, 1,193 kilometers, and you say it's on the way. Last time I asked you over for drinks, you said it was too far. Double standards much." Becky's face blurred under the dim lights, and my heart pounded. I overheard someone ask her, "Becky, so you plan to be with Felix?" Felix, Becky's sweetheart, was my first friend from college. Back then, he found Becky annoying and pushed us together. But now, he's back home enjoying Becky's attention without a care. He laughed, pretending to clear things up. "Don't tease. Becky and I are just friends. Everyone knows you grew up together. Now Felix is back. Time to rekindle that old flame." My close friend was upset for me. "Those jerks. Tim is Becky's boyfriend." The ones teasing glanced at Becky. Leaning back, Becky almost dismissively said, "He's good, just not from a good family. Just something to play with in our circle." Laughter erupted in the room, someone chiming in, "If you're tired of him, lend him to me. Tim's quite the catch." Becky dumped the peeled shrimp onto Felix's plate. Laughing, she retorted, "You'd eat anything, taking my leftovers." The place erupted again. Felix laughed along, only my buddy Mike looked visibly angry. I stood outside for a bit, and when I pushed the door open, I had composed myself. Laughter instantly stopped. Without causing a scene, I left with Mike. Turning to Becky, I said, "Let's break up." After a moment's silence, someone snickered. They teased me with raised eyebrows. "Jealous much? Bluffing with a breakup won't work on Becky. How long do you think he'll hold out this time? 7 days. 5. What about you, Becky?" Becky smiled lightly, pseudo-warning. "Tim, you're not in a position to break up with me." Looking at her arrogant demeanor, she seemed like a stranger. I met Becky during the lowest part of my life. Even then, my feelings for her were genuine, with no ulterior motive. When her friends called me a simp, she only once defended me. A light rebuttal. "Don't say that. Tim just loves me too much." I was caught up in the fantasy of her loving me back, never realizing if she truly valued me, her friends wouldn't make such jokes. The warmth in my heart began to fade. I looked at her like a stranger, asking why. Her friends laughed, their tone full of disdain. "Tim, are you dumb or just acting? Someone like you, dating Becky, you've got to have luck on your side. Can you even leave Becky?" Amidst the mocking laughter, Becky relaxed even more, cleaning the shrimp oil from her hands, and looked at me calmly. "Tim, stop with the games, it's boring. Why fight Felix?" Exactly. With Becky's support, they were even more excited. They grew up together, perfect for each other. Felix says he misses home. Becky flies to fetch him. Wants shrimp. She preps a shrimp feast. She didn't even eat, just peeled shrimp for Felix all night. Decades of connection, not something you can just match. Do you really think you're some big shot daring to get jealous like this? The scornful words cut deep. Felix jumped in, sounding both gentle and understanding. Tim, don't listen to them. It's my fault. Felix, you don't need to apologize. Becky, seemingly caring for him, scolded me coldly. Tim, know your place. You can't blame Felix. Yeah. I clapped my hands, swallowing the bitterness, smiling brightly. Just a bunch of jerks not worth my breath. You. Becky jumped up, but I was already pulling Mike away. On the way, Mike kept glancing at me, carefully speaking. Tim, don't take what they said to heart. Where you come from doesn't define you. You're amazing. I wiped my face and turned around to hug him. Behind us, the noise from the booth where Becky was became even louder. Someone was urging Becky to place bets with them about how long it would take for me to apologize. Becky casually said, even if he apologizes, he won't have a chance. But I'll bet 3 days. I glanced at the star bracelet on my hand, making a silent vow. Wrong. This time, it's forever. When I got back to the apartment, I smashed the proposal setup, stomping on all the balloons. I donated everything she gave me, burned all the pictures with her, hired someone to move all the furniture we picked together, cleared out all things related to me from the apartment, not leaving an annoying trace. After settling everything, I compensated her, not taking advantage even a cent. Looking around at the mess, I felt regret for just a minute. Finally, I took off that cheap bracelet she gave me and threw it on the coffee table. I called a long untouched number and hopped into my buddy's sports car, racing into the night. I used to be the only son of an old family in City A, but a heartbreak led me to defy my dad's wishes and go try my luck elsewhere. My dad cut off all my support in anger, and even my buddies were mad enough to cut ties with me. At my poorest, I only had $2.50 in my pocket. With no other choice, I picked up a paintbrush and started drawing comics to save some cash. After cashing it all in, my pockets were empty. I'd roamed enough, got too tired, decided it was time to go home. As soon as I stepped in, my dad's eyes turned red, forgiving me before I came up with any drama. I wiped away the 2 tears I forced out and scurried upstairs. I lazed around for 2 days at home till my buddy set up a small hangout, threatening me that if I didn't show up, he'd cut relations again. You're tougher than my old man. After the call, I threw on some clothes and headed to the usual spot. After a few drinks, someone walked in. Whoa, Molly? Well, that's a surprise. Molly showed up tonight. Yeah, I was handling some stuff nearby. Molly's eyes scanned the room, barely lingering on me. A buddy nudged my shoulder. Tim, I bet my sister's here just for you. I looked at her blurred. That woman was taller than Becky, wearing a fresh white dress, with neat short hair, slender eyebrows, striking features, and a great figure. Still as beautiful as ever. But too bad. She's trouble. I looked away, raising my glass for a sip. Just drink your drink. Seriously, Tim, you're still holding that grudge? Molly was my first love. We were supposed to be engaged, and when I learned about it at 18, I was overjoyed, following her around every day. But her? Annoyed and irritated by me, she quickly got a boyfriend in front of me, saying there's no way between us. She planned to cancel our engagement when the time was right. The reason I later dated a mess of a girlfriend? Partially Molly's fault. Shouldn't I hold a grudge? Jimmy didn't press it, just invited her. Sis, why don't you take Tim home later? He's a handful when he's drunk, and I can't handle him. Her gaze crossed the group, locking with mine. She nodded. All right. I rolled my eyes, pinching my buddy's leg under the table. Jimmy flinched, grinning his way through some reasoning. Tim, I'm just creating an opportunity for you. Later you can pay her back by sleeping with her. 3 years and you've only slept with one woman. Isn't that too little? Even Becky has someone she likes. What's wrong with sleeping with someone? Besides, with my sister being top-notch, it's totally worth a night. Made too much sense, I'd actually get revenge? Did you forget why I left home in the first place? Would she even let me? I tossed him a blank look, thoughts veering off with his coaxing. Getting something too easily is pointless. For it to really count, I'd need to be forceful. At the end of the corridor, the window was wide open. I perched against the wall with a cigarette. Footsteps approached, and there she was. Molly, when did you start smoking? None of your business. Molly, I'm warning you. You better stay away from me. Molly chuckled, eyes low, not backing down. I frowned, pushing the locks of her hair aside. I spotted a glimmer of amusement in her eyes, and my annoyance flared. Out of nowhere, Molly kissed me, clumsily pulling me into a restroom stall. Already tipsy and rushed, I found myself short of breath. I gripped her waist, pushing forward. Someone came in, her cheeks flaming. She pushed off me. I braced against the stall door, lifting her to straddle me. She gasped, clinging to my neck. Whoa, getting it on in the restroom, huh? So thrilling. Someone outside tried to push open the door. Staring at the door, breath ragged, adrenaline surged. Molly, mischief glinting, came at me harder, smacking sounds filling the restroom. So deliberate. The person outside gave up, left after a while. Her resolve buckled with my increasing fervor. Not here. I carried her to a room. We could see our old friends still drinking from there. She tried to flee in a panic, but I held her firmly. One-way soundproof glass, they couldn't see us. Right at the turning point, I met her eye. Molly, you still have a chance to back out. Her gaze flicked to the glass, softly said, all right, no big deal. I paused, fists clenched. My pants are nearly bursting, and you say it's no big deal? You asked me. She replied, innocently glancing down, muttering, how thin must those pants be to burst? Curious. Drawing a deep breath, I bit down viciously. She corrected quickly. I misspoke. All right. No backing out. Our first time was rough like a starving wolf. She couldn't take it, whining, Tim, you liar. When the storm settled, dawn was breaking. Sore all over, she curled at the bed's edge, glaring. Tim, how did your ex handle you? I reeled her into my arms. Took my job seriously, busy as hell. So I hit the jackpot, huh? Next time, learn some new tricks. Molly, you itching for trouble. I'm a traditional woman. Only my future husband gets my body. I gazed at her, taking a long look, meeting her serious stare. I'd always felt the same. A bit of understanding there. Sorry, if I'd known, I wouldn't have slept with you, costing you a chance to fulfill your tradition. I was super sincere, but Molly got all mad. Tim, what are you sorry for? We're engaged. You're just exercising your rights ahead of time. I was shocked and ready to bolt. Did she lose her mind from shock and forget she said she wanted to break it off? Molly grabbed me seriously and earnestly. Tim, I have to stick to my traditions. You gotta take responsibility. Help. 6 days after leaving, a friend from Becky's side texted me. Tim, it's Lucy's birthday next week. Come back and hang out? Nah, I'll just send a gift. Come on. Everyone misses you. Lucy just wants your special cake for Becky. Not gonna make it. Don't be mean. You only ever made it for Becky. Everyone else wants a taste too. Fine, I'll make it and send it over. But it's hot, won't it spoil? I'll add ice packs. Overnight shipping. Alright then, take care. Later, Mike sent me a video. In a flashy club, Becky pushed off a guy and snatched Clara's phone. The same Clara who just messaged me. Clara frowned and tentatively suggested, Becky, maybe call Tim. He listens to you the most. Seeing Becky's face darken, Clara quickly added, Tim agreed to make the cake immediately when he heard it was for you. He's all about you, which I saw him making it for me. Wasn't it Lucy who wanted it? Don't be mad. Tim's probably just doing it for you and using Lucy as an excuse. Two of them chatting away and Mike laughing. Tim, you always said making that cake's a hassle. Only for girlfriends, remember? That punk remembered. Now you agreed to make it for someone else. Wonder how Becky feels. Such a jerk. Spot on. As I was about to close the video and text Mike back, Becky's voice came through, along with the sound of her kicking chairs. Ha! He can make it or not, come back or not, even if he dies out there, he better not return. For the first time, Clara didn't look down on me. Hesitantly, "Are you really going too far this time? Tim treasured that bracelet you gave. Taking it off means he's hurt. I rejected Felix already, what more does he want?" Becky slugged from a bottle. "No one look for him. Save some dignity." "Fine, your call, no more looking." Someone else intervened. "Your stomach's weak. Stop drinking." Tim barely got it better. "Don't mess it up." Becky slammed the bottle down and stormed off, obstacles kicked away. The rain outside hit her, but didn't wash away her anger. She staggered around, and I rolled my eyes watching. At the video end, she checked her phone. I zoomed in, and it was our chat thread. I was a bit dazed. Last chat was 6 days ago. Before, even a day apart felt long. Lovesick, missing her made sleep impossible. But now, 6 whole days, I hadn't thought of her at all. Becky's voice, faint in the rain, I caught it. She said, "That man's got guts. I gave him an out and he didn't take it, huh?" Becky blocked my contacts everywhere. "Fine. You better not cry and beg me back. I swear I won't be a sucker again." I rolled my eyes. Guess I was too nice to her before. Mike, seeing me silent, probed, "Tim, you..." I quickly texted, "Got a new girl, prettier. You'll meet her one day." Becky once laughed at me doing comics. Said it's not a real job. Her friends dissed me too. She didn't know, if not for her, I'd never have to work again. Live easy. The comic needs an ending, can't leave it unfinished. As I made the last stroke, I lay back, stretching my wrist. Molly's call came right then. "Tim, let's grab dinner." "No way. Gotta find an excuse." Vaguely remembered Molly and Becky both hated animal guts. Becky found them gross, once made me give up pork intestines. "Sure, let's have grilled pork intestines." "Alright, I know a place. You'll love it. Aren't you against organs?" Tried all the grilled pork intestines in City A. Didn't see that coming. "I'm not feeling it anymore. Kinda tired. Another time. I'm right in your lobby. 10 minutes if you're not down. I'll dine with your dad. Say something at dinner, can't guarantee I won't." Threats. Straight up threats. 5 minutes. Molly took me through twists and turns into a tiny alley, stopping at a hole in the wall joint. Small place packed with people. Molly didn't match the setting. She wiped down the seats and table, then got hot water for the utensils. Never thought someone of her status would do this stuff so smoothly. Sat opposite her, watching her unmatched beauty. "Molly, you must have loved your ex a lot. Not like me, 3 years with Becky, only enjoyed that treatment during the honeymoon phase. The rest was me cooking for her. From princess to housemaid. Becky didn't like eating, hated sweet stuff. I scoured ancient texts, trial and error, to make tonic treats less sweet for her. Loved her till I lost myself. Deserved her looking down on me." Molly slid the utensils my way. "Didn't know I had a boyfriend. Never had one. Stop pretending." "Well, that time in college, didn't you bring him to brag? Just classmates." Molly sincerely, "You were always around. I didn't want to be engaged without being asked." Said those things. Molly adjusted her collar. "Been single all these years." I recall her that night. Didn't act like a first-timer. Cautiously asked, "Got any friends with benefits? Trying to piss me off?" Molly tilted her head and cleared her throat. "I'm a normal woman. Anyway, won't need it later." The mood got awkward. Thankful my phone saved me. I answered and Jimmy struggled to say even a word. Just managed to take care and hung up. Before I could think, my dad called, saying he'll cut off my card, and hung up without explaining. I frowned. "What's up with these guys?" Jimmy texted me again. "Tim, I'm sorry, I accidentally let it slip to my mom. Now both our dads know about you and my sister, and they know you're planning to ditch. My mom said you have to take responsibility." I got pissed off. "Jimmy, I'm cutting ties with you." I tossed my phone to Molly. She glanced over and quickly promised it wasn't her fault. Fine, fine, fine. Dinner ended with me eating her cooking. Wasn't in the mood, so I drank a couple extra sweet wines, not expecting them to hit so hard, and somehow, she dragged me back home. Molly hugged me into a bath, then eagerly helped me to bed. I finally got what she meant by not needing it later. Molly grinned mischievously. Tim, that look just draws me in deeper. I just closed my eyes and turned away. She leaned down and kissed me repeatedly. Lately, Molly's been like a butterfly around me all day. I ignored her affection, bossed her around like a servant. Took me days to gather materials for the dessert, picked out the best ones, made a small dish. Was gonna mail it, but Molly ate it all. I stood, trembling with the empty dish. Molly, you did it on purpose. She raised an eyebrow, admitted it. No time to make more, so I had to buy a gift instead. Molly snatched my car keys and handed me a beautifully wrapped box. Suspicious, I looked at her. A brooch from abroad, my favorite brand. On Lucy's birthday, she opened it and smiled awkwardly. Pretty brooch. She glanced nervously at Becky and had her boyfriend keep it. Becky, relieved it wasn't the dessert, seemed pleased. Give it here, Becky demanded. Lucy, trembling, handed it over. Becky stared at it for a bit, then pushed it back. Keep it. Noticing Becky's displeasure, Lucy carefully received it again. Suddenly, Becky smashed a glass, blood splattering everywhere. Becky, are you nuts? Hospital now. Becky sat still, aura fierce. Voice coldly firm. Tim said gifts are only for girlfriends. Promise broken repeatedly. Clara tried to calm her. Tim must be doing this to grab your attention. Attract attention? Totally, Tim's just playing hard to get. He always preps your birthday gifts months ahead. Yeah. Becky, we know your place in Tim's heart. The rest of us don't stand a chance. Becky scoffed. Really? Does he care that much? Believe me, I'll call Tim. We should handle that wound first. Clara snapped a pic of Becky's wounds, sent it to Tim. Becky watched Clara's phone closely, face tense. The room went silent. After seconds, Clara's phone rang. Clara boasted happily. I told you so. Tim cares called right away. The group saw Becky's mood lighten. Becky, your call. Clara offered the phone. Becky glanced at her. Hiding pride, I'll answer. Clara switched to speakerphone, and as Tim's voice came, Becky clenched her fist. Isn't it Lucy's birthday? Why so dramatic? Becky's hurt bad. Scary, deep cuts with glass inside. Clara exaggerated, talking endlessly, until realizing the silence on the other end. Tim? You there? Yeah, done talking? I'm hanging up. Tim's voice stayed gentle. Clara's smile collapsed. Tim. Clara, no more updates about her. Okay? Bye. Tim. Wait. Don't hang up. Clara froze, holding her phone awkwardly, eyes unfocused. Wishing someone would just knock her out. Couldn't keep out of things. Silence again in the room. Becky chuckled darkly. Cares about me? Why so quiet? All turned mute? Becky, quit the tantrum. Your hand's bleeding. Lucy firmly dragged her. Hospital now. The birthday gathering cut short. They hurried Becky to the hospital. Molly hugged me from behind, nuzzling my neck. Tim, don't leave. Who said I was leaving? I dodged, tickled by her snuggling. That simple move, Molly wilted, eyes drooping, fell silent. Sensing her mood. You think I'm getting back with her? Would you? Her voice muffled. Quick reply. No, when she started wavering, it ended everything between us. Tim, I'd never do that. Won't waver, won't hurt you, won't make you cry. Tim, one more chance? Molly's gentle kisses changed everything. Then her mom called. Auntie? Hey Tim. I heard about you and Molly. Your dad and aunt are saying you two need to hurry and get your marriage license. No room for backing out now. Your dad even said if you don't listen, he'll change the will immediately, and after he's gone, all the family business assets will go to Molly. I'm on speakerphone, smirking a bit, watching Molly. Molly looks worried and keeps shaking her head. It's not my fault. Dad's reaction is both ridiculous and makes sense. He's always thought Molly was amazing, so much that you'd think Molly was his real kid. I get it, but I'm annoyed. Why does everyone seem to be against me? It's not about you, but is this what you want too? Molly glances at me, a bit timid, and nods. All right then. Really? Her eyes light up instantly. Marriage isn't impossible, but there are two conditions. Agree and we'll get married. Molly sits up, looking at me seriously. I'm listening. I'm not planning on dating right now, since you're all forcing me. First, we'll marry with no emotions involved. Second, we'll live as a couple in name only. You do your thing and I'll do mine. She pauses for a few seconds, her eyes turning red. What have we been, Tim? What do you think I am to you? I turn away to avoid her gaze, feeling a bit guilty. Friends with benefits, friends, you name it. If you can't accept, then say no. Talk to my dad, he'll listen to you. If you're not all right with it, I won't force you. I'll leave the G family. Tim. Molly takes a step back, her smile bitter. You can't do this to me, Tim. I love you. She turns around and leaves, gripping the door handle and says in a low voice, give me some time, Tim. I'll cheer myself up. Watching her leave in such a hurry, I sit slowly by the bed, staring blankly in the direction she left. I can't deny it. Seeing her like that makes my heart feel heavy. After just coming out of a failed relationship, I can't just move on to someone new like nothing happened. I also can't stand my family pushing me to be with someone. If I knew Molly liked me, I wouldn't have messed with her. If I could turn back time, I'd agree to the family's arrangement, marry her, and just keep it all business, never letting her confess her love. Molly didn't leave. She's sitting on a bench outside, talking herself through it. Knowing he's back, isn't that better than anything? Knowing he's ready to accept the family's plan, isn't that worth smiling about? It took her less than 2 hours to cheer herself up. Tim just came out of a breakup. It's normal not to want to get involved. It's understandable he's disappointed with and avoiding women right now. Blame her for not cherishing things from the beginning. Now that she finally has a chance, blame her for pushing Tim to the edge. She wants a title but forgot feelings can grow over time, and there's nothing more painful than unrequited love. When she realized her feelings for Tim back then, she tried to find him, but Tim was already dating someone else. Seeing them kiss and hug felt like knives in her heart. Knowing their relationship settled into living together, she was devastated. If Tim hadn't come back home, maybe she really would have just wasted away in loneliness. Now that there's a chance, if she loses Tim again, then maybe she deserves it. That night, when she closed her eyes, her mind was like a movie playing on loop. The more she thought, the more annoyed she got. I ended up staying up until morning, taking just a minute to set a new goal: travel the world. I ransacked the room, packed all my valuable things into a suitcase, and booked the first flight out. To avoid my cards being frozen, I snapped photos of my 2 most expensive pieces of jewelry and sent them to a friend to appraise, planning to sell them. But the jewelry didn't get sold, and I didn't run away either. Barely out the door, Jimmy caught me. I felt guilty, but went on the offensive. You're not hiding from me anymore? Jimmy had dodged me for days for letting something slip around our parents. He looks at me with a half smile. I figured today would be the day you'd try to run. How the heck did he know? I stopped pretending and admitted defeat, bewildered. You sent those pics to your friend, and they called me asking if your family was going bankrupt. Damn, I forgot there are no secrets in our circle. Jimmy shoved my suitcase into the bushes and dragged me back to the villa. So, where are you thinking of going? I had to spill the beans on everything that's happened lately. So, you're running to avoid my sister. In summary, yes. Jimmy looks me over. You've got that look about you. My sister treated you very well, and now you're leaving her high and dry. You pushed me into this. Stop with the excuses. I might have nudged you there, but I wanted you as my brother-in-law. You gonna be that or not? I couldn't reply. Cat got your tongue? I frowned at him. Let me tell you something new. You don't like the family forcing things? Funny, because a few years ago you were thrilled about the idea of marrying my sister, and now you're a hypocrite. Truth is, you're just holding it against her, right? You didn't know? The day you got with Becky, my sister wanted to talk to you, but saw you 2 kissed as she arrived. She lost it, locked herself away, drank until she nearly died, made my mom cry herself blind. When she found out you came back, she lost it again, skipping work even though she's a workaholic, trying to come up with some plan with my mom to keep you here. I'm her plan. I was shocked. That's how Molly knew all my moves. But in any case, was she wrong? You weren't at fault? I widened my eyes at him. You gave that toxic girl 3 years. Can't give my sister a chance? You're not over love, and you know deep down if she's a woman to trust in for life. Worst case, take her in and any grievances can be worked out. She might just take it with a smile. Hearing this, I admit I was swayed a bit. Isn't moving on so quick a bit jerky? Do you still love Becky? I shook my head. Where's the harm in breaking up and getting back together? Jimmy suddenly grinned. You think you can escape that easily, brother-in-law? He emphasized the last 2 words, making my hair stand on end. Where's Molly? I asked. He gestured toward the door with a raised eyebrow. When I opened it, Molly stood in the rain, looking at me with a wistful expression. I paused and turned back to her. Honestly, she was my type and even more so soaking wet. My heart softened immediately. All resentment vanished. I stepped into the rain. Molly walked quickly toward me, shielding my head with her hands. Don't get wet. I pulled her closer by her neck and kissed her. Tim, don't talk. Under the gentle rain, we passionately kissed. Her heart was racing, and her cheeks were flushed. Molly, you have a fever? Tim, could you not leave then? She looked up at me with a muffled voice. I chuckled lightly and pointed at the mud-covered suitcase. Your brother's doing. The stuff inside is ruined from the water. Molly looked a bit confused but endearing. I'll pay for it. Deal. I stretched out my hands, smiling brightly. 10 million in dowry. She was taken aback but soon looked overjoyed. Tim, are we still just a couple on the surface? She interrupted my response and buried her face in my chest, murmuring, Don't say it, I don't want to know. I pulled her into the room, knocked her onto the bed, and knelt between her legs, whispering, But I want to marry first and fall in love later. Afterward, I noticed a diamond ring on my finger. Molly grabbed my hand, kissed it repeatedly, and said, Tim, you're not getting away now. On the 20th day after Tim left, Becky returned to that little apartment. The place was a mess. Most of the furniture was gone. She crouched by the ashes, picking up a partly burned photo, lost in thought. Tim's bright smile in the picture broke her heart. Shocked, she tossed the photo aside and stormed out. Becky kept drinking every day to numb herself, trying not to think of him. But Tim's image lingered stubbornly in her mind. On the 30th day of Tim's departure, Becky was drunk and sat outside the apartment all night. In her haze, she thought she saw Tim opening the door and walking toward her, just like he used to. Tim, she staggered towards him, and just as she was about to hug him, the illusion vanished. She stood there in a daze, unable to shake it off. On the 35th day of Tim's absence, Becky took a break from work. It took her 3 days to restore the apartment. While tidying up, she found a pair of rings and held them close to her heart. 3 years went by, and she never thought of giving him a ring. In his absence, she realized how important he was to her. He would leave a light on for her when she came home late and made tasty pastries for her hangovers. Looking at the newly redecorated proposal setup, Becky decided that when Tim came back, she would propose. He wanted to be her wife, and she was sure he would forgive her. She swallowed her pride that day and sent him a message, but it went unanswered. Her reassurance faltered a little, but she'd already ordered a diamond ring. She would wait a little longer. Determined, she remembered many things in an instant. After dating for 2 years, they finally moved in together. Tim gave himself to her that day, promising to be together forever. It was her fault for neglecting the relationship, almost losing him. Luckily, there was still time. She pushed the designer to work overtime. Finally, on the 7th evening, she got the ring. Nervously, she dialed Tim's number. The ringtone sounded but soon cut off, her heart sinking with it. She called again, clutching the velvet box tightly. Just when she thought he wouldn't answer, he did. In that moment, she was speechless with nerves, but then heard a female voice. Baby, your phone. Can you get it? I'm in the shower. The simple conversation on the other line was a cold splash of water. Becky felt paralyzed in an icy pit. Did you hear that? My husband's in the shower. Molly, Becky hissed through gritted teeth. Yep, that's me. Who do you think you're calling husband? What's your deal with Tim? Let him talk to me. She clutched the phone, red-eyed and furious. Molly laughed lightly. Are you deaf? Didn't you hear me call him husband? Guess what that means? Molly, don't you dare take advantage of him. Becky's voice cut off as Molly hung up and blocked the number. I know I'll see Becky again. We both live in City A and move in the same circles. It's inevitable. She's always been the golden girl that everyone fawns over. I imagined that when we met again, she'd still be all high and mighty. Never thought I'd see her so disheveled. At the time, I was in rosy health, nurtured by Molly, joyously trying on wedding dresses. Molly came out of the fitting room, holding her skirt's train, smiling. Tim, do I look pretty? Becky walked in and stopped a meter away from me, and I involuntarily took a step back. Molly looped her arm through mine. It was comical. I once bought matching outfits for Becky, and she just scoffed. Now, she'd shed her designer suits for the t-shirt I once loved on her. People will change for those they care about, ignorant to the fact that love itself defies convention. Becky's eyes were dull and bloodshot, looking aged. The large mirrors in the bridal shop reflected all three of us, sweet music playing in the background. Time felt like it paused at that moment. Maybe Becky's current state was just too shocking. Molly tightened her grip on my arm. But Becky stood there calmly, softly calling my name. Tim. That gentle voice made me a bit dazed. I couldn't even remember how long it had been since I last heard it. It seemed so distant, probably all the way back to when we were in love. You said we'd walk hand in hand. The music fit the mood perfectly. The lyrics seemed to have a mind of their own, rushing into my head, flowing through my every part, tugging at my heartstrings. I saw the sadness in Becky's eyes, and there was this indescribable feeling inside me. Maybe being there made me remember the Tim who once wanted to marry her against all odds but ended up in despair. Tim, I'm here to take you home. Becky kept her eyes on me, so gentle it felt like an illusion. She stepped closer, stopping just about a yard away, and confessed with deep emotion. Tim, I was wrong. Let's go home and get married. Marry me, will you? Seeing her like this, full of emotions, if it weren't for those vivid memories, I might have been fooled. Her affection was never just for me. I looked at her and shook my head gently. It's too late. Some things can't be mended. Becky, I don't love you anymore. Tim, Felix, and I are innocent. I've ended things with him. You have to believe me. You're the only one in my heart. I've restored the proposal site that was ruined, even changed it to your favorite purple. This time I'm proposing to you. I even got new furniture just like the old ones. I also kept that bracelet safe. Tim, I've got the wedding ring. Tim, I'm serious. Becky's eyes were getting redder, her voice slightly trembling. She carefully handed the ring to me, eyes full of hope. Looking at her like this stirred something within me. Becky, I'm getting married. I clasped Molly's hand, our fingers intertwined. All color drained from Becky's face. Her eyes slowly lowered, landing on our clasped hands, finally stopping at the sparkling ring, filled with bitterness. Someone else had already put a wedding ring on me ahead of her. Tim, you look beautiful in wedding attire. That wedding dress should have been for me. Enough. Tim, I was wrong. Please forgive me. Okay? Let's go buy even prettier wedding outfits. Enough. Tim, I love you. Please don't marry someone else. Okay? Becky, I said enough. I'm getting married. You don't understand plain English? She froze, her eyes full of sorrow. Tim, you've fallen for her. I looked at Molly, my tone firm. Yes, I love her. Becky looked at me, begrudgingly let out a laugh, her words sharp. Are you sure she's genuine? Your status matched against the heiress of the oldest family. You sure she's genuine? The woman who fought me tooth and nail for business. Could she really be genuine to you? Tim, can you say there are no hidden agendas? Would she boldly prove she's marrying you with no ulterior motives against me? Tim, always so naive, believing in love, not knowing all women are the same. You've been with me for 3 years. Can you say Molly doesn't mind at all? Are you confident you'll make it to the end with her? Aren't you scared being with her will end in vain? The lively music stopped suddenly. I looked at her in disbelief, not knowing she could be so shameless. The last bit of softness in my heart disappeared, leaving only a quiet emptiness. Before today, I'd never regretted loving her. The good and bad are experiences I accept. But at this moment, I deeply hate myself for being blind, regretting that I ever loved such a scum. Turns out she never respected me during those 3 years. From the core of her being, she looked down on me, and I was blind to it all. Molly hugged me tenderly. "Sweetie, go rest. I'll take care of this." I nestled into her warm embrace, shaking my head silently. Molly lowered her head, kissing me firmly. "Tim, you're never my only choice. You're my everything, and I never had the choice. All along, it's only been you who could choose me or not. I never regret my choice, only regretting when I realized I'd lost you. Why did I see my feelings too late, not taking you back decisively? Who do you think you are to compete with me? Taking advantage of someone, what kind of person are you? Taking advantage? Becky, who are you to mouth off here? You think Tim is just some ordinary guy? There are few in City A who can truly compare to Molly's family. Becky, you didn't deserve his dedication and love during those 3 years. Maybe it was me hiding my identity that angered Becky, or maybe Molly's final words of not deserving really pushed Becky over the edge. I've never heard her speak so recklessly. Not deserve. Like you're any better. You picked a man who was with me for 3 years. Our families had a marriage pact to begin with. Who are you? A dog barking pointlessly here. Molly slapped Becky's face with all her might. Becky wiped the blood from her mouth and slapped back without hesitation. The two quickly got into a fight, causing enough commotion for security to step in. It took 2 guards a lot of effort to separate them. The two stood there, facing each other down, full of bravado, ready to attack. I stood between them, utterly exhausted. "Are you both done?" Becky turned pale. "Tim," she started it. "Molly, I'm not done with you today." I saw it, Becky. I apologize on her behalf. If you have any requests, just let us know, and we'll try to accommodate. Tim. She started it with her careless words. Molly was upset, looking at me with pleading eyes. I walked over to her and took her hand, patting it gently. "Becky, I apologize once again on behalf of Molly." Becky had sadness in her eyes. "You're really taking her side?" She started it. She stepped closer to me, and this time, I didn't back away, looking at her with emotionless eyes. "I understand, so if Becky has any requests, feel free to let them be known." "Tim, I'm hurt. It's really painful." Becky pointed to her face. I glanced at it and pulled out my phone. "I'll call an ambulance for you, and we'll cover all the expenses." The sadness in Becky's eyes spread. "Tim, you know that's not what I want." She tried to take my hand, but I moved away. "Becky, you've crossed a line." Becky looked at her empty hand, and the hope and sadness in her eyes shattered as she looked at me with infinite sorrow. I just stood there, indifferent and unfazed. "Tim, my face hurts so much. Did I get a scar?" Molly pinched my waist and turned me toward her. Blood was flowing from her chin and cheeks, and with resignation, I asked, "Where does it hurt? Let me see." "It hurts here." She pointed to her cheek. I gently blew on the spot. She pointed to her chin. "It hurts here too. Needs a kiss to make it better." I smirked and gave her a kiss. "Anywhere else?" She suddenly pressed my hand against her heart. "Heartache. Oh, that's serious, might need emergency care." I pulled my hand back, and Molly tried to grab it. "Tim." Becky stood behind them, quietly watching like a background. She saw Molly act spoiled and petulant. She saw Tim smiling, patiently coaxing and indulging her. He used to be gentle and considerate towards her too. But how did it come to this? In a moment, it felt like needles pricking her heart, a dense wave of pain continuously crashing down. Becky clutched her chest in anguish. Only in this moment did she clearly realize that Tim truly didn't love her anymore. He wouldn't be endlessly tolerant of her. He wouldn't smile at her anymore. He wouldn't come back. Becky had completely lost him. She once thought letting go of Tim would be the easiest thing in the world. She once thought she was in control of this relationship. She once believed she held all the cards. Not until this moment did she understand. She was the only one who couldn't let go. I watched Becky walk away. Standing in the sunlight, her back looked lonely and desolate. Time seemed to stand still as passers-by hurried past her. Through the window glass, we just quietly stared at each other. The next second, without looking back, she got into a car. The roar of the engine filled the air, and the car sped away. I watched her leave, saying goodbye to the part of me that used to love her. Becky, from now on, we're just strangers. Tim, look at me. Molly jealously pulled me into a hug. I turned to her. Let's go. Let's take care of your wounds first. My wedding with Molly happened just as planned. That day, she drank a lot, walked into the room, and hugged me tightly, confessing over and over again. Honey, I love you so much. Honey, you're finally just mine. Honey, we'll be together forever. I hugged her back, closely, whispering in reply, yes, together forever.